Hey, thanks for checking out the Depleted podcast where we talk about all things World of Warcraft. This is episode 11, and today is Monday, April 12th, 2021. I'm Tarithal, and joined with me, as always, is Spoogy.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Hey, doing pretty well, man. Haven't actually talked to you a lot this week. Kind of been having an off week, playing a lot of Overwatch, and...
Yeah, I am guilty. I'm guilty of that. The Archives event is currently live.
Okay.
And so I kind of talked to you a little bit over text about this, but I think it is where they're testing out a lot of the Overwatch 2 PvE content.
Yeah, we've kind of been joking about that because I think Overwatch 2 is supposed to be like a pretty PvE intensive game, right? And so they're kind of probably doing some like smaller quote like alpha or beta testing, through this event, which honestly sounds pretty cool, but
yeah, after we talked about that, I actually read about it, and that is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
They are testing out a lot of these systems. And so, in any game from WoW to Rocket League, Overwatch, anytime there's like limited edition skins that come out, for some reason, I feel compelled to go and get them.
I actually like those systems, like the exclusivity of having limited time skins. Like even in like League of Legends, I really like that some of the skins are exclusive to people that actually earn them, And
yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool.
I know it's always a good feeling when you can pull out that skin a couple years later,
Yep,
and enjoy it, and people are like, "Where'd you get that?" Or even titles in WoW. I love the Undying.
Yep, I wear that one. Yep, I actually wear that
Vanquisher for PvP.
Yep.
That stuff like that's fun. There's currently a Soldier 76 skin that is from the Revolution.
Oh, that's cool.
Where he's got the powder wig, he's got the blue like Revolution, uniform all the way down. His gun looks wooden, like kind of like a musket type deal.
Oh yeah. That's
and
really
so
cool.
It is just a really awesome skin. And then Tracer has the whole British Revolution type outfit going on. The Widowmaker has the Musketeer type thing.
Okay.
And so this is the only time of year that you can get it. There's like 2 or 3 weeks where that window's open and then it's gone.
Okay. Yeah, I dig that. But, yeah, I've been seeing you play a lot of that, especially like while I'm working. I'll get like a random email that says you're streaming, and then I'll pop it open, and I don't know. You just seem to be playing a lot of it, but that's cool. I think a lot of people in our guild are doing that right now. In between like Diablo 3 having a new season, and I'm forgetting the name of that new shooter game that's out.
Outriders.
Yeah, Outriders. Seems like everyone's playing Outriders right now.
Which came off to me a little bit Destiny meets
Gears of War.
Right? Gears of War, right?
Yeah.
And so
people are saying it's a lot like Diablo, which I didn't expect. I've heard the exact same thing, and it looks like the actual like mechanics of the game and the movement. It does remind me of Gears of War, but I guess because you're essentially doing like keystone levels, quote unquote. I guess it's kind of Diablo-esque. Which it's pretty cool. I did watch a little bit of Limit Max playing today with Tali, which actually made the game look pretty interesting. But I don't know. I think I'm bad at shooters. You're pretty good at shooters, but that's
I love shooters, but I can hardly get you guys to play them with me. So
I think I like PvE shooters. I don't like PvP shooters on PC. There's just some cracked out kids that spend all their time, playing PvE or PvP shooters, and I just can't keep up.
Any game that we put a lot of time into, we always run into hackers too when it comes to first-person shooters.
Yeah, for sure.
I know you and I put a lot in PUBG, Warzone, and both of those are just notorious for the aimbots and just blatant aimbots too. Like not even trying to hide it, just like turning and sniping people across the map with a pistol or a shotgun. You're like, come on, man. So I don't know. It's the give and take, but. Blizzard games are always pretty solid, and I haven't really run into anything on Overwatch, but that's been fun for the past week.
That's good. Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Diablo 3. I have kept up with WoW this week. It seemed like a lot of people in the guild were just like absent this week in general. Like outside of raid days, like no one was online. But
well, it's that time of the tier where it becomes more difficult to keep people engaged because just about every goal that they've wanted to hit, they've kind of hit. We do not have cutting edge, which I think that's what does keep people coming back.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the highlight of my gaming of the week is doing that fun progression. But outside of that, I don't know. It gets tough.
Yeah, speaking of kind of a drought in content, it does sound like the 9.1 PTR is potentially coming out tomorrow. They haven't said specifically tomorrow, but it's kind of been teased that it's going to be early this week. So I've got a feeling we're going to find out a lot of new stuff, this week, and it should be pretty interesting. I bet you a lot of people will kind of show up again thinking, "Oh, the patch is around the corner," when in reality it's still another 2 months out or so.
Yeah, I kind of want to get more information about the new raid,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really got me intrigued, and the mega dungeon sounded really cool. The whole bazaar theme they have going on that you'll be kind of going through the market or something.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent to Court of Stars, at least like from the artwork that they put out. It seems like it's going to be a little bit like Court of Stars, which is awesome. That's actually one of my favorite dungeons of all time.
I remember that was your favorite. That's the one where you
Yeah.
start off in the little boat.
Yep.
And go across. Yeah, that was a great dungeon.
Yeah, it was a very cool dungeon.
A lot of places that you could actually wipe though with some of those pools. I remember that being kind of a tricky. Kind of have to really know your route there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like a Court of Stars, I think, with the dealers as kind of the overarching kind of theme of the dungeon. So
Tell me, man, the lore, they're going to come out being some really bad guys.
it could be. Yeah, it could be really cool though. I think they're a pretty cool character just in general to have into the expansion this time around. They're mysterious and they've got cool abilities. And I don't know, just overall, I think that theme is going to be very cool. And maybe we'll even be able to see the seasonal effects on the PTR this week, which will be really interesting.
That would be very good because that does have me interested because they said it's going to be jailer-esque, but we got nothing else,
Yeah.
And Prideful was it was a solid one, but it really didn't change much. As a healer, I really preferred, once we got doing 10s, which was really early on. I know we did a 10 the first week, but it just feels like a much more fluid dungeon doing 10 pluses because you don't have to drink and because you get all that mana back during the prides. And so it felt fluid, but then, got clunky with certain things like, somebody body pulls something extra, then it can throw off your entire count. And, with certain routes that could really just mess up putting a pride on the wrong side of a boss or something, which was always kind of wonky.
Yeah, you have to be very clean with your routing and everything this time around. And I think the overall kind of feedback from Prideful is everyone loves Prideful. It's just old at this point, right? They're just looking for something new. But I mean, it's good, right? There's nothing wrong with Prideful. Like, it's fun.
It's not going to go down as a bad seasonal fix. I just don't think it's going to be, in the top two.
Yeah, for the last couple of weeks specifically, it's been like impossible to skip the prides, which is pretty annoying. Like, I think had they been easier to skip in general, so you could have decided if you wanted to actually do it or not more reliably, I think that would have been more enjoyable. I know we actually lost one of our dungeons this week because we had planned on skipping one of the prides. It looked like everyone did it correctly, and it just aggroed anyways. Yeah, we ended up killing an 18 key. I think we were like 30 seconds off of actually timing it, and of course that 30 seconds was spent, blowing cooldowns on the freaking pride. So
I know, like a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, you and I had a similar situation where we failed a key. It was like a 16 Halls of Atonement.
Okay.
Where we thought we had skipped it, but we ended up actually pulling him. Everybody popped their stealth and we moved on, and it didn't work.
Yeah, we actually did that again yesterday. I have it listed there. I did a 17 halls this week. I actually timed the 17 halls, but we killed the mini boss right before the final boss. And typically that's the pride that we try to skip, right? Because it's kind of pointless. The last boss is so easy anyways. And we all got out the door. We basically spawned him in the middle of the cathedral. And then we ran out the door and turned around and he was chasing someone. So we ended up doing it, but I think we got him to like 50% and then pulled the boss with him, and we still had like 4 minutes left, so it was kind of a joke, but I don't know. For some reason we've been having trouble skipping those recently, and I think the game would be better if you didn't have to pull them all. Or if you could pull multiple at once or something, that might be interesting. If you pull the last boss and then a bunch of pride spawn that you skipped, something like that would be interesting.
That would be cool, but it's anytime you get more options as the player or as the group, I always think it's healthier for the game. That's why I really loved the very end of BFA was you had all the options in the world because, anybody could have a different route than you or the standard, Raider IO route, and it could work. It'd be perfectly fine. And it was just fun doing it like that. You never knew what to really expect if you weren't tanking. So it was just kind of like buckle up and let's go. I'm kind of excited to see what comes next.
Moving on, we have a couple of interesting topics this week. So we had a pretty good rating week. We we re-cleared 6 of 10, which is where we're at right now. And so we did that on Tuesday, which is pretty cool. So we essentially had a full day of prog on Thursday. And so we'll talk about that. But also a big topic right now is the new MDI event, which I think we should maybe talk about first.
Yeah, the Great Push. This is a new event where there's going to be a $20,000 prize pool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to change up from the standard MDI, which is basically they're competing simultaneously right now, right? Same key, same dungeon, same fixes everything, and they have to pretty much the only variability is whatever comps they pick. Now it's just they're just pushing keys as high as they can throughout the week, and then the highest one moves on, right?
Yeah. So the way I understand this is that there's going to be a trial period. So literally anyone that wants to could sign up for this event.
Are we signing up for this event?
Well, if we had 5 people, we could.
All right.
But anyone that wants to could sign up, and Blizzard will, give you tournament realm access on May 22nd and May 23rd. And they'll give you every single person the exact same 2 keys to push up, which they haven't announced yet, right? So no one knows which 2 keys everyone's going to get, but you're going to get 2 keys. I assume everyone's going to get the exact same keys with the exact same affixes. And then the top 6 teams to push those keys to the max, right? So the highest of the 2 keys added together. So those top 6 teams will then compete on May 28th through 30th. And I believe they get all 3 days to basically push every single key. So the way it's going to work is they're going to have 8 keystones in their bag. And over the course of 3 days, they can just go through any of the keys they want, and try to push them as high as they can. And it should work basically like live realm, right? So if you deplete the key, it goes down. If you 2 or 3 chests, it will go up 2 or 3 keys. And the best score, once you add up all 8 keys together, is the winner.
So it will be on Twitch this time?
Yes, it's on Twitch and YouTube, which is very cool. And then on top of that, in MDI, for example, the players aren't allowed to stream their own perspective. Where in this event, they're free to stream their own perspective. So it's going to be very, very much like, the Race to World First, where you can, go to any streamer you want and see like how they're doing at any given time, right?
Right.
So,
you can also see where they're focusing their time.
Yeah.
Because probably there's going to be certain ones that they want to focus on, and then, whatever time they have to make up to push up the rest.
Right. And so it'll be kind of cool, to see what strategies they come up with, right? So maybe, because Plaguefall has all the plague borers, and, the higher the key goes, the more damage the plague borers do, right? So it doesn't really, the key doesn't really get harder the higher you get, other than the bosses. So maybe the strategy will be, let's push for like a 27 Plaguefall, right? And get like super high score there. And just kind of assume no other team is going to do like a high Sanguine Depths or something like that, right? So it'll be kind of interesting to peek around at all the different teams, and kind of figure out who's doing what.
Well, it's definitely healthier that they're letting the streamers stream, and also letting Twitch get in on it, because I believe that kind of hurt MDI a little bit just being on YouTube alone.
I agree.
The biggest event, the biggest event for World of Warcraft is definitely Race to World First.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You get people that don't even play anymore watching that, and it is such a huge event. And the reason is, in my opinion, is because Limit and Echo and Method, before they had their big explosion, they all opted back in BFA to show everybody what they were doing, to stream it,
right?
And so I think this is going to be really, really awesome.
Well, it's a little bit more of a realistic experience too, right? I like that they're not pushing 18 keys. It's the 25s, right, etc. I mean, granted, they will still have that tournament realm gear, right? So they'll still be around 230 roughly eye level, and basically whatever pieces they want, right? So they'll have BIS stats and all that kind of stuff.
But when they're doing 18 keys, it's so ridiculous, because there's no risk there for some of the stuff they're doing.
Right, and so the strategies will be completely different, right?
Right, yeah. And it's more, I don't know, less of a rehearsed dance and more better execution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And you're not going for speed, right? You're just going for completion. So, I mean, I guess if everyone's doing a 25, then you are going for speed. But I think most people are just going to be trying to push the highest key possible, regardless of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you're going to get more realistic strategies. You're going to see a lot more struggle than you typically would. And you're going to be able to essentially like click around on the different streams and see them like problem solve in real time, which is very cool.
Do you think Echo is going to do it like they do Race for World First, where there's like zero strategy talk over stream?
I don't know.
You can see what they're doing, of course, but they kind of keep that hush hush. Meanwhile, Limit was on the other hand had their comms wide open.
I could see that. I mean, I don't know though. I actually watch them during work while I work. It's in the background for me, and I watch now in Genji. I watch them push keys basically all morning, and they've been playing. They've been trying to push like 22 to 24 keys for like the last week, and maybe they're doing some offline, right? Because maybe they are trying to hide some of their strategies, but for the most part, they're just running keys like normal. And Genji's putting his videos on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I think they'll just run keys. I think they'll just try to do it better than everyone else, right?
Well, yeah, and probably at this point they do have that 230 eye level and multiple characters now where they can do that. But I don't know. It's I think it's going to be better for MDI overall because for the most part, I really haven't cared this season too much. Like I'll watch it if it's on and I've just put something in the background. For me, a lot of the luster kind of wore off because the first time I saw it, I thought it was the greatest thing ever, and I always wanted it to be in game, right? Another sort of competitive factor where we can go in and compete against another team. Like right now, yeah, you can go do keys and you can look at the Raider IO and yada yada yada. But that live feeling that you have another team right now, competing against you instead of the ghost of another team. To me that's more fun.
Yeah, we've always thought that should be an in-game option, and really, there's no reason it couldn't be.
I don't see. I mean, that they have all the, in my opinion, okay, and I have zero technical knowledge of how they pull it all off, but it seems to me a lot of the tools are already in place that they already have. How hard could it be to implement that and let two teams run?
They implemented the Valor system. In reality, what they could have done is just a rated M+, some sort of rated ladder where it's literally just MDI, right? Just the same as PvP.
I mean, you put a leaderboard down. I mean, going all the way back to the days of Tetris, gamers want to, get up on that thing,
Sure. I mean, that's what Raider IO is, so.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah, it is. The fact that it's a third-party system that we have to use is slightly annoying, I don't know. It would be nice to have something live and to have that live competition, too. I think it would be really great. So.
Yeah, I think another cool thing about this new MDI is that, for me personally, a lot of the personalities that I like to watch throughout the day, I think they'll be competing. I've already heard, for example, Growl and Dorky Bear are going to be in it. Ellesmere and his group are going to be in it. The Echo team is going to be in it. I've got to imagine some guys from Limit are going to be in it. At least they're going to, apply to be in the Proving Grounds, but, they're the ones that are pushing the 24s and 25s right now, so I assume, all of them will eventually be in it.
What team is J.B on? Is he still Method?
He's in Golden Guardians, actually.
Okay, and what guild is that on live? Is that any?
No, it's just a bunch of different people, actually. There's a guy from Limit that's on the team.
Okay.
I'm trying to think who else is on his team. I think Fired Up is on his team from Limit.
There's also that Paladin that's a really Paladin healer.
Yeah, Ellesmere, that's what I was talking about.
Is he the one with like the shaved head?
Maybe we're thinking of different people. You talking about like Z-Monk?
Z-Monk.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he'll be in it or not. Maybe he'll be in it.
No, when I think about big time healers, he's one, Growl's one.
Ellesmere's one. Ellesmere's the top of the leaderboard right now in Raider Dodo.
And then did I say G.B? So those guys are the ones I usually think of, kind of like in the top tier healers. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. When you think of like top rated M+ players, typically you do think of tanks and healers. I can't really think of a lot of DPS.
I think everybody knows Fired Up strictly because of Limit and the fact that he's usually one of the POVs that Max watches from. So he kind of stands out from the crowd to me.
Yeah, I could think of the guys in Grell's group, but that's just because I watch a lot of them specifically. But...
yeah, and they've actually grown a lot this probably the past year from BFA to now. They've really started pushing some high keys.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that'll be super interesting. And did you see the drama between Limit Max and
No?
So what happened was some random person popped into his stream while he was streaming, and they just asked him his opinion on this tournament. And basically what he said is the people that raid for World First are way better than the people that push high keys. You know, most of them aren't even interested in M+, but if they were interested in M+, they'd essentially be dominating the leaderboard. He's like, and for that reason, he's like, I think Echo is just going to slaughter everyone. And I guess that like really triggered a lot of people that push high keys. He basically just called them casuals.
Was there anybody else, like any big names that got offended?
Well, I think Ellesmere specifically, his group.
Okay.
he got offended. He might have even been in the chat when it was said, but anyways, it's good. It's actually good for WoW in that sense because it kind of causes some hype. It's like, okay, you know, are these World First Raiders really better than everyone else or not? You know, and so it kind of adds to some of the David versus Goliath kind of momentum for the tournament.
Well, I will say in favor of Limit Max, there is a lot of skills that I think are very applicable that come over because it takes a lot of dedication and focus to be a World First Raider.
Yeah.
You know, there is a lot of setup behind the scenes that we don't see.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, those guys are giving hours on hours a day of focus on one fight, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so learning one dungeon is, you know, pretty much just rolling over to the next thing, in my opinion.
He's to give him credit, he said it way more respectfully than I'm giving him credit for. Like, his logic was sound, right? He was saying, you know, the people that raid World First, they put a lot of time and effort into it, and they're just overall just really good players, right? Where he can't really say that about everyone that pushes M+, right? But I think it's a little bit short-sighted. I think people that literally spend all their time, you know, doing M+, I think those guys, you know, are exceptional players as well.
You can't count Ellesmere out just because of that, because I mean that's his thing. That's where he makes his money, is literally logging in and pushing keys all day. So, and
I'm pretty sure, you know, all the guys that do the high keys, you know, the M+ 25 keys, I'm fairly certain all of them have cutting edge as well. So it's not, I mean, they didn't do it first, right? But they did it. So it's not like they're, you know, that far behind or anything like that.
I know Growl's got it, and the bear, Dorky Bear.
Yeah, Dorky Bear. Well, he doesn't even, it's funny, his character Dorky Bear is actually in Complexity Limit, but he doesn't raid with them. So I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but he's actually in Complexity Limit. He just doesn't raid with them.
No, I've never actually noticed that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, but anyways, new tournament, very exciting. I think we're excited about it. I think overall it's a very good change for MDI and just the Mythic Plus community as a general. It's cool that Blizzard's giving more attention to MDI because, or not just MDI, but M+, because it's always just seen something that's like a background thought for them, right?
Yeah, and Now was kind of talking about it last week or the week before, where it was getting to the point that it really wasn't worth it for, you know, the big names to put in all these hours. Like he was putting in 8-hour days, focusing on the keys, focusing on MDI specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when you look at the prize money,
yeah,
they were making, you know, and you got to be winning this to be making like $17 an hour
yeah.
for what that was the top team, right?
Well, arguably this one is not really that worth it either. Like the 20K prize pool, that's for everyone. That's not just for the first place team. The first place team, I think it's 8K, and then you split that 5 ways. And
but that is $4,000 each. If,
no.
You have other expenses. But this is much shorter time period.
No, it's like $1,400 each, $1,200 each. It's like nothing for the first place team. I think their entire
20K is for okay.
Yeah. No, I think the top team gets $8,000, which you have to split 5 ways. So yeah, it's rat money, but it's
again, this is 3 days. Well, 5 days if you count the proving ground.
It's essentially 1 week. It's the weekend before the tournament, and then the following weekend is 3 days. So it's like it's hardly any work.
That is true. You know, I guess you could argue some prep work, maybe practicing, but we all are practicing the more we run keys.
Sure.
So I don't know. This could be cool, but yeah, they were talking about the point I was trying to get to is they were kind of toying with the idea of is this worth it for some of these big names like Echo to keep messing with?
Yeah.
And they were almost arguing that for them at the top, making that $17 an hour, and this is going off his math, it kind of really wasn't. But then you look at the teams towards the bottom who are making like $4 an hour, really not worth it for them, and that's not really healthy for generating competition. So I really like the Proving Grounds. I like how they have that open. I really hope we see somebody we've never seen before actually come out.
Well, I do too. I hopefully, I'm all for anyone getting into this tournament, but I am kind of rooting for like the Dorky Bear Growl team, right? So I hope they make it in. I do hope Ellesmere team makes it in. I expect them to because they're literally the top rated IO team right now, right? So you would just kind of expect them to be in.
Yeah.
And then I assume Echo's going to make it in, but that leaves 3 spots open. So I don't know. I don't know who else would be, that high of caliber.
To me, Growl is almost like the little train that could. And I know he's a big time streamer now, and he, does it full time and does the big keys. But I remember like when I was learning Druid, he was the only guy putting out like simple videos, specifically aimed at M plus, kind of talking me through not only just what to do, but like his logic of every scenario that was kind of coming his way.
Mm-hmm.
And, he kind of has that monotone voice where he just, just kind of goes on and on. But he was very clear, concise, and it really helped me out. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew Growl and everybody was talking about him. And then he's like at the top of Twitch. I didn't even know he streamed until this expansion.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing about him, right? He's super articulate. I would say that's probably the best quality about, his stream. He's super articulate. He's really, he thinks about everything in the game a lot. You can tell, right? Mm-hmm. And he voices a very solid and logical opinion about, the things, the way he feels about certain things in the game. And even like the thing going on with like Limit Max and Echo, he just put a video out kind of explaining his viewpoint about that, right? And I think he does a really good job of just articulating, how things are. And I think overall, I think it helped grow the M Plus community, right? Because he was a really good player and he was able to explain, things about M Plus really well, and just overall, I think he's helped a lot of people.
His very calm nature that he normally has when healing.
Mm-hmm.
The funniest thing is I saw him do a tank video one time and he was complete opposite. Dude was 120% stressed out the entire time. Like from the first pull, like screaming and all that stuff, and it was downright hilarious. And I was like, "Yep, that's pretty on point for tanking." Because I think he was doing pugs. He was on his druid, so he was bear tanking, and he was definitely out of his comfort zone. It was completely hilarious to see this other side of him, where you see that nice calm exterior is kind of practice from being really comfortable at healing.
Yeah, sure.
It was kind of funny. So yeah, I'm always rooting for him.
I think I'm actually the opposite personality of that. I think when I tank, I'm super chill. Like I'm just straight chilling. We can accidentally pull 2 extra groups, and I'll just kind of group them all up. I'll kite them around. I'm just straight chilling the entire time. You put me in a healer situation, I'm like, oh god, there's like 3 explosives going off, and there's a curse, and there's a debuff, and my boomkin is getting smacked by a spiteful. It's like, oh my gosh, dude, I don't even know what to do.
No, from a healer's point of view, I feel like I'm the Hulk, where it's like that's your secret, you're always, low key angry all the time. It's like, like, oh, man, I just hate melee DPS, your head.
Yeah,
that's what's going on. But outside, you're just kind of, BSing with the group about everything else, and going on with it. Healing.
That's probably true. I bet you if you did a poll of like who's the angriest role out of any dungeon group, I bet you the healer is always the angriest person in the group because they see all the crap that no one else in the group sees. Right? It's like, why did this person get hit? Why is no one dispelling? Right?
That's how I felt during progression with my last guild, going through heroic.
Yeah.
Like I had an outlet where me and another healer basically were just constantly whispering each other, just getting it out there, as like a verbal punching bag. But that was Drexy. And, it's like, everybody's dirty secret. Like, oh, what happened? It's like, do you really want to know what happened? This guy right here that you addressed 2 pulls ago stepped in the thing you told him not, it's like, you know all the dirty secrets of the raid.
Yeah. Well, you kind of get that as a raid leader too. That's I do VOD all of our progression, and for that reason, one, because I'm an officer in the guild, and two, because I'm one of the raid leaders, I make sure that my chat's always covered just in case someone needs to vent something or if they're complaining about something. Or not that I don't think people in our guild really complain. I mean, really, speaking honestly, I don't think people really complain. I've seen a lot of guilds be a lot worse about complaining about all kinds of things while screwing things up themselves, right? But I do have like that confidentiality like filter, on my Twitch.
Well, you actually wanted to watch my sire progression.
Yeah.
One night, and I turned it on for you.
Yeah.
And I was still doing my normal thing and not really thinking about it. Just airing out. And you know what? I love those guys to death, and I have nothing against any of them. But it's because I had that release of this, this dude, just did something really stupid, and I can get it out and, talk to Drexy about it. And I remember I didn't realize that on Discord it said I'm streaming and that they could click it and it gives them a link to my stream.
Yeah.
And so somebody said, oh, Spooge is streaming. And then all of a sudden, my viewership, just shot up because everybody was all of a sudden tuning in. And I quickly had to turn on my camera to hide my chat. I was like, oh, okay. I was not ready for that,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But it was funny.
So what did you think of this week in raiding?
Let's see.
So Tuesday, I think I mentioned this at the very beginning, but yeah, Tuesday we did a full re-clear up to where we're at. So we're at Council on Mythic right now. Tuesday went pretty well. I'm trying to think. I set out for the first 2 or 3 bosses, but I was watching over your shoulder again. And I think the first 2 bosses maybe got 2-shot or 3-shot. And then Hungerer, I stepped in after 1 or 2 attempts, and then we 1-shot it. And then Lady, we 1-shot, which was super surprising.
Yeah.
And then we wiped for probably 2 hours on Artificer, which we 1-shot last week, which was kind of annoying. And then we 1-shot Sun King. So overall, I don't think it was too bad, except for Artificer, which honestly, I don't even know what happened with that fight. But
I don't know. It's like every single person took their turn in the raid doing something to wipe us.
Yeah.
And I was actually guilty of messing up on the very, very first pool. I was running the wrong way for the portals with the ghost, and I could have kept going to the other pool. It didn't matter as long as I didn't get touched. But then, like midway of running, I noticed everybody running to the other side of the room, and I tried to correct myself.
Yeah,
and because I never got targeted because we 1-shot it last week.
I was going to say you were still within your grace period, like. That's completely understandable of not 100% understanding the mechanic. Because last week we just went in there. I don't even think we explained the fight to you. We just did it and 1-shot it, right? So
yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was still trying to figure out, like I was whispering to other boomkins. Actually, last week I healed it. This week I was DPS. So I was still, I'm like, hey, when do we blow cooldowns on this? Still trying to learn, what's going on with this. And then I got that mechanic on the very first pull, and I got MC'd, which really sucked.
Did you learn to convoke after you press CA?
Yep, you got to hit that CA, which I messed up on one boss.
Oh, did you?
So mad. Actually, it was on one of our progression pulls.
Okay.
I completely missed a convoke because I convoked and then pressed CA. On accident. I don't even know what happened. When you're double digits on pulls in, sometimes your brain just kind of shuts off after a bit.
Yeah.
And I was so mad because then I started dropping down on the meters a little bit because those other druids are getting their full convoke off. I'm like, oh man, I was right there with them.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what happened with Artificer. That took quite a few pulls, but then we 1-shot, in my opinion, some of the hardest ones, which was Lady, Sun King, and we made a 2-shot Hunger. It was something quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I think I jumped back in. Well, I think I started raiding after a pull or two into Hunger. That's when I first entered the raid instead of just
Yeah,
watching from like a 21st man perspective. But yeah, we got through that, and then we one shot Lady, which was surprising.
you got to see me do some big deeps on Huntsman.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
I actually was I want to say I was in the top two,
Well,
maybe.
I thought your DPS all week was really good. Like for one, for being off spec and just kind of being surprised into playing your off spec last week to coming in this week, and I know there's a little bit of padding that goes on during council just because boomkins are able to do boomkin things with all the waiters, but I mean you were still keeping up with the other boomkins.
I was really kind of worried about that, and I really was looking at the meters in depth because I wanted to know how much damage were they doing to each boss individually.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I was usually um, really within like 20,000 damage
Okay.
if I was at the bottom. Quite a few, like most of the pools, I was actually in between the other two boomkins. I was in the middle,
That's good.
and those two guys were trading off. And I think it just kind of was coming down to RNG of who was having to do maybe the dance or something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that throws it all off.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of little things you can do to really maximize your damage, such as when that's coming out, the where we have to run around with your partner. Is that dancing?
Dance recital. Yeah.
Dance recital. Thank you. If you can, if I keep that 50 astral power ready, I can Starfall. And then the entire time I'm running around, I just gotta make sure I'm close to my partner, and I can just free cast, like I'm doing my normal rotation.
Yeah, I was gonna say Boomkas are really, really good for that fight because even while you're doing the mechanics, you can cast on the move, which is pretty rare, but it's good for that fight specifically. I mean, it's good for every fight, but that fight specifically, a lot of people lose DPS, and Boomkins are able to just keep doing Boomkin things. So
yeah, and the problem with me was I was always star surging the crap out of the attendant. Where I was just really quickly after that guy dies, I'm trying to get my astral power built back up enough to do that mechanic in case I got chosen.
Yeah.
Because you really can't get much casting off on the attendant because he dies so fast. But then the one time I feel like, oh, I can't get a cast off. By the time I finish this cast, he's gonna be dead. So I'm just go ahead and start casting on the boss. Then that'd be like the one pull where the attendant actually sat there for a second. I'm like, now I feel like an a-hole, and they're asking why is the attendant not dead. And so there's little things like that, but overall it is a fantastic fight. The way the order of the bosses were doing, it's really fun for Boomkins. So I was a little sad when you kind of messaged me. You're like, maybe we should change up the order.
Well, I don't think I said that after the raid, did I just beforehand I was kind of brainstorming because we were down a tank this week, and the tank that we have or that we were missing this week has like the most mobility, and the current strategy that we want to use, I mean, we haven't really gotten real far enough to really test it, but we essentially want to nuke the first gargoyle that comes down, and then we want to kite the second one around until the intermission and then have it freeze in place, kill it, and then we want to have enough DPS going into the last 50% of the boss, where we only have one gargoyle. And ideally, I think we should just kite it the entire time. I think our DPS is high enough to do that. And I was worried that we were going to have one of our boomkins swap to tank for the night, which meant we were going to have less damage on the waiters. And then two, I wasn't real sure we'd be able to kite the gargoyle. And I think doing free to last, which is how we do it in heroic, really isn't that difficult. There's essentially like one mechanic that you have to spread out for. And I built a weak aura that gives you like a 7-second warning, before you have to spread out. So it gives you like plenty of time to spread out.
Yeah.
And that's really it. You just have to spread out, and then you have to rush back together and do a dance recital. And then when she does that Iron Spikes ability, it leaves like a little blood pool underneath you. And you just have to take a step out of it. I mean, that's literally the entire mechanic. So there's no waiters, there's no gargoyles. It's fairly simple. You just literally spread out, make sure you're back in time for dance recital. There's more healing that has to go out because every time you spread out, there's like a 15k AoE ability that happens. But I mean, I don't think that would be that difficult to deal with. So that was kind of like in my mind, I'm kind of debating the pros and cons of our comp. And I don't think we're planning on switching anything, but yeah, that thought was just kind of, I
Yeah,
explored that option.
Yeah, you may have mentioned it to me before the raid. I can't remember which way you explained it, but I remember all I heard was no more waiters, and I it's just like sad boomkin noises.
Yeah.
Because when we definitely do pad the meters, starfalling all those guys, and it does give us that crit bonus as well.
Right.
Which I was constantly checking it, while we're in the pool. I'll bring up my character and check my crit, and like it was just there. I'm like, yes, this is awesome.
Yep.
But we also maximized our convokes on Frida at the start, which was we started pushing that guy a lot smoother after that.
Yeah.
Once we kind of got the boom kit, we started, further back on the right side, so we're not hitting the other two bosses, which is just, wasted damage anyways. So, we were kind of focus firing more. And the only time that kind of got gimped was if the attendant spawned on our side.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing is Wrath, Star Search, put up your dots, and then blow the cooldowns. And so, if the attendant spawned on our side, he just got demolished before he even made it, halfway towards the boss, which, is overall not a bad thing as well, because then everybody focus fire Frida. So overall, it was just better. We did everything better that we did last week.
Well, I watch VODs. Like, I actually do watch our VODs after we raid. Typically, it's the same night, and then I'm usually up all night spamming people my thoughts, like speaking out loud, probably annoying the crap out of them. But I do actually watch the VODs, and I noticed last week that we were tanking Nicholas on top of Frida at the beginning, which I didn't realize we were even doing that. Because in my mind, Frida should be isolated for the druids. And just as you said, worst case scenario, your convoke hits the attendant and Frida instead, in which case you still get value out of it, right? But if you're cleaving damage into Nicholas, and you're losing half your convoke to it, it's literally just wasted damage.
Oh, I thought we had fixed that before.
Nope. Prior week we did not fix it, so this was the first week we had actually implemented that.
Well, that's what I mean. I thought like this week we'd actually put that fix in. Okay,
yeah, we
gotcha.
did. Yep.
Yeah, so that was a big thing for us, and the transitions and everything were going smooth. We were still having a little bit of trouble with Dance Recital.
We had a lot of issue with Dance Recital. Actually, that's one of the most frustrating things of this boss. Like, I don't mind. I mean, if we get a little bit further ahead and we wipe to something, I don't mind. But it's like, at this point, we shouldn't be dying to Dance Recital, right? And it seems like that's kind of what's holding us in place at the moment.
I turned my sound like barely on, as far as like everything else in the game. So everything's really quiet.
Yeah.
It was almost like a little too quiet for me. At first, I think last week I had completely turned my volume off just so I could hear the weak R's.
Yep.
And it was almost a little too much, like a little too distracting to me. Like I needed a little bit of background noise, so I barely have it on. And then I still have the weak R's turned up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know, to me, it seems like the simplest thing. It says left or right. Plus, you get the big thing in your middle of your screen that says you are paired with, Tarithal. So, and actually, we actually did get paired up 3 times this week, which is kind of funny.
I typically take the weak auras and then I customize them to whatever helps me. Like, for example, last week I was actually having trouble listening for him to say right. And then the arrow on my screen was right in the middle of my screen, kind of where all the action is. And so I took that arrow and I moved it to the left over my frames where I heal. And then I made it 3 times bigger than normal. And instead of him saying right, if he says left, it still goes left, right? But if it goes right, it's the arrow horn now. So it's like, I get this giant green arrow. It's impossible to miss now. But
that's good. I moved mine to the very tip top of my screen.
Okay.
Because that to me, that's kind of blank territory, and that's where things kind of pop out the most.
Okay.
Because in the middle, there's so much spell particles and things going off that I could see people missing that. So I always just move it up.
Yeah.
Because my eyes are typically towards the middle of my screen anyways. So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
That works for me. So
for me, it's a little bit different, right? Because I'm having to call people jumping off their stacks, and then I'm having to apply atonements to people. So I'm tracking atonements. I'm tracking people jumping up.
Your screen with all the
I'm literally having to track I'm having to track timers, so I'm trying to watch and see if people should be jumping off their stacks or if there's a dance recital coming, Because if a dance recital is coming at the same time people are jumping off their stacks, I need to like hold barrier for that. And I have to like not call people to jump immediately.
Yeah.
So like my eyes are on the timers, my eyes are on the stacks, my eyes are on my grid tracking atonements, and I'm supposed to be tracking the weak aura, right, to tell me to move left or right. And then sometimes I have to do that while I'm doing the dance recital. And so I don't know. A lot of customization goes into trying to be able to track all of that.
The thing about the council fight to me is it's super simple phase 1, super simple phase 2.
Yeah.
And then the fight really kind of starts phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it reminds me of Highmaul, the Imperator.
Okay.
The final boss guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that was a long fight. I remember that.
Yes, that was, I mean, it was almost like 10 minutes of don't fall asleep, do the basic mechanics of like, you know, like your tank had the explosion, he had to jump out or he wipes the raid.
Yep.
You know, that kind of thing. And it's just like mindless stuff. And at the very end, after like 10 minutes, you would, you know, the fight would really start. And then it was a little soul draining working on AOTC, I remember back in the day, because, you know, you're doing these big, long pulls, and 10 minutes, everything's going smooth. And then that one little mistake happens and you have to do another 10 minutes of the monotonous stuff to get back to that, you know, 30 seconds of action.
I remember loving that fight. I think I actually got AOTC the first week when that came out. But that was back when I was playing like a super sweaty guild. And it seems like we pushed that super hard the first week. And yeah, I remember loving that fight. I thought that was super well designed. And I think that's actually a great parallel to Council, because it's almost exactly the same thing, right? You've got kind of like the ad phase, and then he kind of comes back at the end and like ways you had to jump over or something like that.
Yeah. It's just tough because it's the same kind of thing with Council, where phase 1, blow the attendant up, do your dance recital, and phase 2, we had a little trouble with the positioning, but I feel like this week we were so much smoother of immediately identifying where we should move to, and then executing that move.
I think we're going to get a lot better at that, and I think we're going to get more consistent at that. And that's kind of a raid leading correction, right? That's not like the raid screwing something up. That's like me or Thick, you know, calling something out that probably shouldn't be called out, right? Like moving forward when we don't really need to. And from like, I think towards the end of our Thursday night progression, if anything, that's probably something that we improve the most on. And I think, you know, going forward into this week, I think that'll be a lot cleaner, you know, kind of identifying where we need to move.
Yeah, the calls got a lot better on that. And because there's multiple factors. And so I do not envy y'all's job, because there's multiple things to look at. There is one, where the dance is going on, you know, where's the raid going to get hit if we're standing there. And then 2, you have to worry about that guy doing his little flourish stab where he kind of dashes.
Yeah.
Because I know at one point there was a call made where the raid was told to move, raid moved to say orange, and then the guy just went right through everybody.
Well, so, I think that was more, we had a substitute tank, which he did really well this week. He did exceptionally well. You know, for never have tanking that, or had never tanked that fight before, you know, and especially with all the movement, right? Because you don't do that in heroic. But yeah, he took a pull or two to kind of get that down, and then I don't think it happened again.
No, it was so smooth this week on that part.
Yep.
And then it was just, you know, it's the minor things that were getting us, you know, mostly dance recital.
Yeah, I'd say 90% of it was dance recital, which is kind of depressing because it's just one of those things you can't really fix, right? You don't learn anything, right, as a raid leader specifically, or as a raid in general. I mean, I guess the players, the more they see it, the better they'll get at it. But I mean, we had some repeat offenders. We just had a couple of bad, you know, lineups where we pushed something at the wrong time, and then dance recital hit us unexpectedly on the way back, right? And just we probably spent half the raid not really learning anything. But we had, before we went on break, which happens exactly halfway through the raid, it was like the second to last pull before that, we had an exceptional pull where we honestly could have killed it. I don't exactly remember why we didn't phase it correctly, but we almost got Nicholas to 50%, and it seemed like everything was going perfect during that. And then the actual second to last pull of the night was almost identical. Like it was a 56% wipe, but I think the gargoyle came down and meleeed 2 people, and then two more people died to the dance recital. And so we lost 4 people, and I think Oppressive Atmosphere got up to like 11 stacks or something like that. And I think just overall we need to clean up that transition. But if we get him to 50%, I have a lot of confidence he'll go down this week.
Yeah, he's looking pretty unhealthy for this coming week.
Yep.
And I'll say we did have one technical error where one guy's weak aura was just straight up not working.
Yeah, that's hard. But
and it's one of those mechanics where everybody's got to be like on board together, because if not, then that damage is going to be left behind and kill everybody.
Yep.
Especially if you take the wrong step. If you go left and you should go right, when everybody else kind of moves. And that's something else I kind of noticed is one of the issues I think is, you do have those like fast runners that come around really fast, which, we said multiple times, or you said multiple times, it's kind of slow down your roll a little bit. You don't have to come back into the raid group. But on the flip side, the raid group itself can actually be a little bit more mindful and kind of go a little bit to the right, give them a little bit of room too, if for some reason they're Speedy Gonzalez. So,
yep. I mean, if it's two range players, technically you could just take like a super wide turn around the boss and not even technically be with the group, right? But yeah, you kind of just have to know who you're paired with, right? If you're a melee, obviously you don't want your melee to lose DPS on the boss if possible. But
yeah, I definitely there was definitely one pull where I just straight up spaced out,
Sure.
And it said, I was supposed to go left, and I did not move at all. I just stood there and got blown up, and I was like, oh my God. we were like deep into the raid at that point.
Yeah.
It's just like one of those things where it's just like my brain. But it was like it was a boost for me at that point. But then I kind of woke up a little bit. I'm like, all right, pay attention.
This is kind of like a different topic, but I think people play better. Like if you don't do this in your raid, I would highly suggest you keep a break schedule and you make sure that you do it every single night. I think it's pretty tempting to push over that schedule, but I think people getting up for 5 minutes and walking around and like letting like your blood flow and like getting oxygen and stuff like that, I think that actually helps a lot. At least I've noticed that with our raid group specifically, is like after break, people come back and like typically they perform like really well, and then towards the end of the night, sometimes it kind of goes back down, right? But
I am 100% guilty of that. Like, you're going to get the best of me when I'm fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the more I sit there and stare at something, I start to, those little itty bitty mistakes start to creep in, which is something I'm working on myself. But
sure.
Me too. And I've noticed that you guys are, something I really kind of respect about this raid group is y'all are pretty strict about that break, but then you also really don't go over your cutoff time, which is also really cool that, you respect it. And it's like, hey, this is it. All right, good job. No matter what just went down, like you guys had when you were progressing on Artificer, like a couple weeks ago, you had like a 0% wipe at the very last point. Yeah. And like most, like, I feel like raid leaders would be like, we have to go back in, we have to do it, and push that. But you guys, respected that time.
Dude, I would have been angry that night. I wasn't angry at the raid. I was angry that we had a 0.00% pull.
Yeah, but he's dying.
Yeah.
And then of course the next week, I think was the week I came in, and you guys one shot it, which I was just healing, so it really wasn't much of a change for me. But I remember you guys one shot it, and of course we struggled a little bit this week, but we got him down.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't know. This week was just kind of odd. It seemed like we lost a lot of progress in our raid. Not a lot of progress, but we lost a lot of time to mechanics that you don't really learn things from, right? And that's kind of one of the things that burns people out. Not me specifically, but just I know, in the past, or, but I think in general, people just get irritated, when there's certain mechanics that you just don't learn anything from, right? Stepping in a trap, for example, an Artificer. Yeah. That could really tilt people in a raid group, right? Yeah. Or, just mechanics like that just really should never be messed up. And especially if you spend, an hour and a half wiping on that, that's not great. So
you got to think about it. We've been doing this for over a decade, right?
Yeah.
Of raiding, and you've seen, every personality out there. And it does kind of wear down on, you may have one guy who is doing every single mechanic correctly, But then you have that one person who is always going to be messed up on the one thing that they're never learning anything from, and it's not really anything off his back. But the guy that does everything right, he's getting more and more frustrated. You know, I've seen that happen before, and I'm not saying I see any of that in the current group. But
I don't either. Yeah, no, I just
but just in general, you know, like I said, we've been doing this for a long time, so we've rated with all sorts of personalities. So that is something that does happen from time to time. Is it does wear you down a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But I will say, Artificer specifically, when your shell comes out, the big dome, those traps can get hard to see.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely stuff for me personally that I need to work on, like watching the VOD of Council. About 75% of my spirit shells are really good, but I'd say they're decent, but I don't really get a lot of time to ramp up the shell. And then sometimes I just miss one of my key abilities altogether, like my mind games, for example. My mind games, for example. If I don't hit that, the shell is like 5k less than it could be. And just from watching the VOD, right, there's things I can work on, like being a little bit more consistent with that. And I think overall that would, help us get just like that little bit that we need, right? That little bit extra healing that we need. But overall, I think it was a good week. We killed all 6 bosses for the first time in one night, which we've done 5 before, but not all 6. And that seems crazy because of how much time we actually spent on Artificer, right? But I mean, we killed all 6 in one night, which is great. Yeah, if we get Council down and then we start getting that on farm, I mean, and then Sludge Fist, I think realistically we could get to a point where we kill 8 in one night, and then we spend the second night essentially working on Stone Legion and Sire.
You saw me do really good DPS on Huntsman, but then you saw me do a really bad Shriek right before that, and I was healing, and the transition phase happened, and we were behind the pillar, and then there was like 2 mistakes to my right, where people got hit by rings, and I took one step too far to the left. Like I was trying to like min-max it to the max, and I took one step too far to the left, and I just barely clipped that stupid circle around the boss. And then he punted me. He killed me instantly, and then punted me to the very front of the room behind a pillar. And they were trying to get me up, and I'm trying to tell them where I was, and one of the Boomkins kind of gave up a little bit of his DPS to come and find me and get me up.
Yeah,
I
saw that.
And then, like an idiot, I saw the boss casting something, and I mistook it for the blood for a second.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, hang on, let me wait for 1 second. I'm like, wait, why am I waiting? It was wrong mechanic, and then I got up and ran around, and of course we killed it on the pull. I messed up. But,
yeah. That's how it always goes, right? The pull you die is where you kill it.
Yeah. So I was frustrated, but then I felt better after Huntsman, and then we got into Hunger. He went down quick, so that I love healing that fight.
I'm actually, it's a little counter to what I say while I'm in the raid, but I'm actually for people kind of maximizing their DPS and not exactly doing. I'm trying to reword this. I'm a little less strict on certain mechanics, like for Shriekwing. How we scream for everyone to be like line of sight, line of sight, line of sight. Make sure everyone's behind the pillar. I think the more comfortable you are with the fight, the less serious you need to be about that. Like realistically, you could have your Death Knights and you could have your Rogues, AMS and Cloak of Shadows and not do that mechanic. And then when people run out the Bloods, they could wait till the last second and not put it very far away. As long as they're not in key positions, truthfully, I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I think we're at a point where it's not that important. Obviously during progression, you want to execute mechanics the best that you can, right? And leave as little to chance as possible. But I mean, if people just, understand the fight, our raider specifically, I trusted enough just to do the mechanics correctly, for those fights. And, stuff happens during the intermission sometimes. But overall, those kind of mechanics, yeah, I'm okay with people trying to maximize their DPS, and just kind of squeak out, as much as they can there. That doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, those guys were doing a good job. And you actually had a Disc Priest, a different Disc Priest in for Shriekwing, which was the one I healed. And I remember he completely ate my tranquility at the start. And because usually you're watching, like the few times I've been in, you're watching me, so we don't have a disc priest in the raid at that time. And so I remember going in there and just kind of being a little defeated because like my entire tranquility got ate by this guy, and I'm like, oh man, that kind of sucks, And then of course that mistake happened where I got punted across the room, and I was just kind of like, this sucks. But they still downed it, which that shows very good strength on the raid as a whole. To be able to recover from some of those mistakes, because that transition looks really sketch for a second there. I tried to overcompensate for it and made it worse myself, and they still pulled through. So
yeah.
I think what you're saying is right. I think we could blow through some of those things.
Mm-hmm. How are you feeling about the druid now that you've done a little bit harder content? Are you still enjoying it, or do you wish you were playing something else? I mean, I know you haven't been able to heal full time. We're kind of having you play balance 50% of the time, but I think you're doing a great job on it. I'm just kind of curious if you're enjoying it.
I'll say this. I like healing on the druid the most.
Sure.
Compared to other healers that I've played, but we don't have the strongest cooldowns, as far as just like that straight up mitigating the damage, stopping it from coming in. We're all HPS, and if you cut the numbers down, we're kept not really as strong as at that either. And so would I want to play something else? I would say no, because I actually do enjoy playing Boomkin as well.
Mm-hmm.
I never really got a chance to do that before, because my heals were always needed. And so it's been fun to kind of get a new perspective on the raid. In my opinion, I know some people are just like, I'm a healer, this is what I'm going to do. You don't want this. I'm walking. To me, it almost like keeps the raid fresh for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm relearning things from a totally different perspective. And I get to blow some stuff up, which I never really got to do before.
Mm-hmm.
And the druid has a lot of variability in it too. I mean, you can do anything on a druid, and so I don't know. I like it. I would say I would stick to the druid even if I had the choice.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give my druid more attention next tier. I've been playing it a lot actually on the side, and I really enjoy it. I really like bear tanking specifically. I think it's crazy fun. It just seems super strong, and it's got a fun kit, and you can do all like the moonkin weaving and all that kind of stuff. Rather, you can do the bear weaving. You're a boomkin tank that bear weaves. So
they in my opinion, bear used to be very boring, but with the current setup right now in Shadowlands with the covenants and things, the skill ceiling for that has gotten higher. I think you got more that you can weave in now, which is kind of cool. Plus, they're just insanely tanky.
Yeah, we did a 13 Plaguefall this week, and my bear is only 200 item level right now, and we almost 2-chested a 13 Plaguefall. Yeah, I mean, and this week is pretty hard. I mean, it's tyrannical, raging, explosive, which explosive is kind of whatever. And really for a bear tank, it's pretty good because you can moonfire in bear form. And so, that's really helpful for explosive. But, the tyrannical, I mean, I didn't feel it at all. I was just doing bear things, and I got the Thrash legendary this week, and I honestly think I could have tanked probably like a 17 key on that bear at 200 item level this week, because it just like, dude, it feels so good.
Yeah, and they're simple to heal. One, they don't take much damage, but to me, they're easier to read without some sort of external weak aura or some sort of special setup on your end. If you just want to go in with just the basic, bar, there's their health bar.
Yep.
If they are low, they are needing your attention. They're the simplest tank, kind of like more like the old school, in my opinion. And I don't know. To me, they're one of my favorites to heal in N+.
It's funny because I have 3 tanks now. I've got a paladin, and I've got the demon hunter, and I've got the bear, and technically I've got the monk, but I don't tank on him.
Yeah.
But every single week I get the stamina trinket on all of my characters in the vault. Literally every single week I get that as one of my options. And I got the 220 version on the bear last week, and I threw that thing on. And it's just nutty on a bear because you already feel pretty tanky, right? But then you just add an extra like 10k health with the trinket. And I don't think it's the best trinket or anything like that, but for like the current gear level, sitting at 200 item level, and having like that extra 10 or 12k health sitting on top of you, it feels really good.
Oh yeah, you feel like the chief, You're feeling good.
Yeah, so Yeah, it was fun. Really enjoyed the bear this week. You get any good keys in?
No, I didn't this week. Not the biggest fan of Tyrannical, but next week is going to be Fortified, Spiteful, Volcanic, and that's a pretty good one for a Druid healer. When we're pretty valuable in that with the Mass Root. As long as your group handles that effectively, you can just Mass Root everything and just move on.
Yeah, I'd say next week is probably an A tier. I think both of the affixes are super easy, but I think you lose a lot of time on Spiteful.
You do if your group, and that comes down to the group knowledge of maybe your tank can position them in a good spot, and to your group knowing that we can skip past it.
Yeah, we have a lot of trouble with that, and with like just random pickup groups, right? A lot of people want to stay and fight the Spitefuls, and sometimes you have to, right? Like Mist, you can't progress while you're in combat, right? You can't go through one of the walls, so you have to fight them off, right?
Yeah.
But there are certain dungeons like Sanguine Depths for some reason, like groups spend a lot of time in there trying to fight off the ghost. But I mean, you could honestly just ROP, right? If you have a monk with you or something like that, or you could Mass Root. I think there's a lot of stuff you could do to just hold them in place and just not even deal with them.
Yeah, move on quick.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, when you do have to fight them, sometimes you don't even get your full group being able to DPS. If you got a melee who's having the kite, he may, take off running, and then he may be in a bad position to deal with one that's for the range, So it gets a little messy.
Yeah.
Which takes a little bit longer, but that's the only one this week that's going to give any sort of trouble, because in my opinion, Volcanic it's just to interrupt basically at this point.
Yeah, it's an S++ week for tanks though. You don't have to do anything as a tank. Spitefuls don't target you unless your party members die, and Volcanic doesn't target you because you're melee. So
yeah, so there you go. So it's gonna be a good week for you.
Yep, great week to be a tank. So maybe
I'm just glad the Volcanics don't one shot you anymore. That was extremely frustrating because if you have a very particular moment where you had to focus really hard on the bars real quick, it's one of those like little sneaky dudes that gets up under you and knocks you up and just one shots you. So
yeah,
I'm glad it's to interrupt.
Well, Spiteful got nerfed too, right? I think they take a second before they attack now, and I believe their attack range is lower. I think it's consistent with the last Spiteful rotation, so it's not new, but considering where it was at the beginning of the expansion versus now, it's not that bad.
They always felt like they had Slenderman arms,
yeah,
smacking you from across the room. It was like, what is this?
Well, that could have been really bad this week too, right? They could have essentially alley-ooped you, right? The Volcanic could have knocked you up, and then the Spiteful could have slammed you down, right?
Yeah.
So I guess there's a potential for that dangerous combo, but as long as you're watching the Volcanic and in general, you're paying attention to the Spiteful, which, by the way, there are great weak auras, that can alert you if you're being targeted. If you're using something like Plater, there's obviously nameplate indicators that you can have, and there's weak auras that can, put stuff on your nameplates for you. So there's a lot of things you can do to kind of increase your awareness about that.
Yeah, my Plater, for example, has it where it puts the person it's actually chasing, puts their name. So
yeah, mine too. I think we use the same Plater actually. I think
so it's super, super helpful. You know exactly who it's going for, and there's no guesswork involved. So it's could be a pretty good week. I think we could actually push some good keys.
Yeah, I think so. I like to start pushing some higher keys. I mean, we've said that essentially every week, but we had a couple bad weeks in a row. I didn't think this week was that bad. I think it could have been a push week. We tried a couple high keys. We were successful in a couple high keys. I know some people pushed some pretty high, like DOSs, etc. That on paper sounded pretty hard for a tyrannical week, but I know a couple of people that had a lot of success pushing those. So
we missed your 18 by 30 seconds. So
we missed a SOA, and honestly, it was just the deaths. The angels at the top for whatever reason killed a bunch of people. I think we probably had 10 deaths to the angels up top, which is a ton of time wasted. So that's just kind of bad on our group, but
because then you have the animation of having to fly back up too.
Fly back up, and yep. And it was kind of like a train thing where everyone was kind of like coming in one at a time and dying, and so we didn't ever really like have everyone there. And then we tried to skip the pride, and it didn't work, and so I mean, there's just a lot of things that went wrong in our run, but
Yeah, but it's still close, so that's good, you know?
Yeah, I think this is a good week. Next week should be good. Rating, we're extending on council, so we'll have to report.
Oh, so we are extending.
Yes, yeah, we're
Oh,
extending.
so that dude's dying. That council's dying.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we killed it tomorrow, and then Thursday I wouldn't be surprised if we killed Sludge. I don't think we'll have much trouble on Sludge. I really don't. I mean, knock on wood. I mean, quote me, 5 episodes later from now when I'm still complaining about Sludge, but I think it'll go down fairly quickly. And then after that, Limit Max actually just put out a raid guide for Stone Legion Generals, which I thought was interesting. He kind of had talked about not putting out a raid guide because how annoying the fight was, but he's kind of been like helping out the second guild that's not Limit. And yeah. I guess he got a kill with them in about 60 pulls. And he went back in his guide that he put out. He's like, it's really not that bad now. He's like, he even played in it. He's like, actually, it was kind of fun. So I'm actually looking forward to it. People were memeing about it being prison, right?
Yeah,
the Stone Legion General prison. But I'm looking forward to get to it, and it's another 10-minute banger, right? I mean, Council's a 10-minute fight. Sludge Fist, I think, is like is it just a 5-minute fight, or is it 7? I can't remember.
I want to say it was 7 because you have the 4 pillars. What?
That's 4 minutes, but I think you get 15 seconds on each pillar or something like that.
Yeah, so it might be 5 then.
Yeah, so it's a fairly quick fight, but then Stone Legion Generals, I think, is another 10-minute fight. And so it's just kind of an endurance thing, right? It's just, I don't think it's like a DPS fight at all. It's just purely like a control fight, just doing things correctly, phasing things at the correct time, which we kind of have an issue with, but...
But we do get better.
We do.
Right?
We do.
We do get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big change there for Mythic is the whole spreading part instead of keeping everybody kind of grouped up the entire time.
Stone Legion Generals?
I was down on Sludge Fist.
Oh, Sludge Fist, yeah.
I'm focused on the closer target first.
Yeah, that's smart.
I don't even know what's up for Mythic for Stone Legion.
Okay. Yeah, Stone Legion, there's a couple of changes. Like, it seems kind of confusing, but it's not too bad. I don't, on paper, obviously I haven't done it, but yeah, Sludge Fist, I've got a couple of good weakors for that. There's one that tells you in advance to spread out.
Okay.
And then everyone gets a partner that they're linked with, right? Mm-hmm. And essentially what we're going to attempt to do is have some people bait in the pull in, right? There's a couple of ranges that get pulled in. And how it works is like the furthest people back are most likely the ones to get pulled in. So we'd like try to bait that ability, have certain people do it. Actually, it's going to probably be you because Boomkins have Barkskin on a minute cooldown, which lines up with the ability. And so typically what you do is you have your Boomkins go to the back of the room and try to bait it. And then you have 4 people soak the ability. Boomkins pop Barkskin, spread out. And then you just have to be standing at a certain spot when he runs into the pillar. And that's essentially it. So
yeah, I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah, I think that's something we could pick up fairly quickly. Like, I think our raiders are really good. It's just some fights are a little bit more intuitive. Some fights probably need a little bit cleaner callouts. I think Council, where we're at right now, the movement during the waltz is probably a raid leading issue. Probably what goes on during phase 3. I think people are very excited during that phase, and it's probably also, calling out dark recitals and that kind of stuff. And giving people enough time to kind of position for that, right? So
yeah, we had, just some wonky things happen in phase 3, such as, we blow the cooldowns and then some DPS just randomly get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And then there's so much stuff going on, right? Yeah. So, it's just one of those things. The more people see of it, from DPS, heals, and tank point of view, it's just the cleaner everything's just going to get. So I feel confident, in that one.
Yeah, I think we'll be 8 of 10 here fairly soon, and then the last 2, we're gonna have to really have endurance, and hopefully the guild is willing to put in the work, right, to push over the last 2. But I think if we get to 8 out of 10, I think that'll really excite a lot of people, including myself, right? I'm pretty hyped right now, but I think
I'm further than I actually planned to get this tier, so I'm already hyped. So I'm good.
Well, I think that's how a lot of people are, right? We kind of had that fallout of the officer core a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think anyone really expected to get any mythic bosses down, and then we're way farther than we set the goal. And if we happen to get to 8 out of 10, I think that'll just be like, really the energy that everyone needs to really want to finish the tier with CE. But
yeah,
who knows?
9.1 is going to be hitting the PTR hopefully soon. So there's always that chance that it could come, in the next month and a half, 2 months. So
yep.
It's really going to, I think, maybe put a fire into people, like let's really get this,
Yeah, I hope so.
But overall, I think it's going to be a good week this next week.
Yep. Is there anything else you're excited for?
I'm excited for people to go check us out on YouTube.
Oh, man.
And then from there, they can find our Discord and come join it. And there's you can talk to us. Let us know how much you hate us or love us. We're okay with either, as long as we get to hear from you.
Yes, please do that. But other than that, I think that wraps up our episode for the week.
All right. Well, you guys have a good one.